Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Influencer Show, where I interview people who can help influence the way you live life in a number of different ways. I'm your host, E7, and today we have a very, very special guest with us today. Dr. Ai, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the listeners and tell them a little bit about you.
Oh, I am so honored to be here on this podcast. And thank you so much, Trishan, to have me as your guest. My name is Ai, and I'm a professor turned entrepreneur. And I taught in the classroom in higher education, mainly in the United States, but also in different countries globally for 10 plus years. And I personally witnessed and experienced how broken the system is. So I resigned and started building my own school, which is Classroom Without Walls.
That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And for those of you who don't know who Dr. Ai is, please do feel free to check her out over on LinkedIn. She does amazing lives with super inspirational people, and she has so much content to share.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So why don't you tell the listeners why you do what you do?
Oh, yeah. So I kind of mentioned a little bit, and about 5 years or so into my teaching career, I discovered this old way of teaching our students did not work. So why is that? And every single semester, I cried with my students and for my students. So students, and I say that in the classroom, they were so disengaged. And actually, research has shown that as children grow older and older, their interest in going to school like sharply decreases as they grow older. And I see that in my classroom every single day, especially the last several years. But if you ask any educator, the reason that we became a teacher was really to see the spark in our students' eyes, right? The passion that you are showing right now, the excitement for learning, for life. And I don't see anything like that. But what I do see is like stress. And they ask me questions like, hey, Dr. Ai, will this be on the exam? So learning has become equivalent to a GPA. That's what we use in the US, to a score, how many A's, how many B's, and also become equivalent to, will this be on the exam or on the quiz? If the answer is yes, I'm going to pay attention. If the answer is no, I'm not going to pay attention. And that really hurts me a lot. That was not why I became a teacher. I became a teacher to really see students enjoy learning for the joy of learning. So that was really a big factor that I decided and almost became obsessed with this education crisis, this problem. I asked myself, what can I do to alleviate the situation? As a mom, as a teacher, what can I do to make learning more fun, more relevant? So I made some big decisions, and even though I got my PhD, which we call terminal degree. And I think that title is wrong. Like no degree is terminal, right? Learning is lifelong, it's organic. So it took me some time to get out of that shell, I have my, title is so good, I don't have to learn anymore. So I made an important decision. I became a student again, not just academic learning, but actually learning in life, reading books, listening to podcasts, going to conferences. I also became a practitioner, which is, I think, the most decision I have made in my teaching career. I started to practice what I was teaching in the classroom. So I was teaching public relations, communication classes, and later social media classes. I started to practice, and that really led to my building an online presence and eventually led to my resignation. But really, it came out of the reason I do what I do today was really out of my compassion for students and for people like you, and also for parents to create a better learning environment for the next generation.
That is absolutely amazing. I totally agree with what you said there, really, because so many people, they learn in so many different types of ways, such as visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and you can't really teach everyone the same way. So it's the schools for one type of person, but some people might learn through experiences, some people might learn through having connections, and it's just about being open-minded. And it's I'm really surprised because some people, when they get their like PhD, they're like, that's it for me. No one can tell me what to do. And it's great that you had that open mindset to be able to still learn despite all the accolades that you have.
Well, yeah, I think again, it took me some time. Definitely not right after I got my PhD. I was like, wow, I'm on the top. Like this is like a terminal degree. So I really enjoyed that. I think that's that feeling also like hindered like how much I could grow, right? But thank God my students sent me a message like, I'm not interested in anything that you're talking about. It's too theory based. And the feedback from the students, of course, was really hurtful for me to read. I received, what do you mean like too theory? And but I eventually started to listen, and this is what I teach other parents, to practice the pedagogy of listening. Not always like, hey, no, I'm right, I don't want to listen to you, but to actually become a student to listen. And it's so important. Everything is collaborative, not dictatorship, right?
Yeah.
When you think about the traditional classroom, it's almost like a dictatorship. And I'm the teacher, I have all the degrees, the credentials, I know everything, and I can teach you. And for a student, when you are in the classroom for so long, and you start to really believe that the teacher knows everything, right? Like, I don't know anything. And I don't think that is conducive to our students to become lifelong learners and to really preserve their agency to learn, to be curious, to be imaginative, right? The fact that I have, like, I'm learning from you right now, right? You are pushing my perception of youth. And so I love that. I think we need to accept that teachers are human beings. We don't know everything, and we're also learners, and we have to be learners if we want to remain relevant.
Definitely, and I hope that you listeners have been awakened by the fact that despite where you're at in life, despite all the things that you have achieved, there's always more to learn. And on that note, I'd like you to share with the listeners what you would say has been the biggest influence in your life that you wish you had known sooner.
Oh wow, that's such a great question. I think what I wish was really we kind of talked a little bit about this, was how important it is to engage in lifelong learning, not necessarily in terms of academic traditional learning, but learning in life, in real life. And I think for me, for a long time, I think learning only happened inside the classroom, inside the academia, inside the physical walls. And I have to really make an effort to disrupt that. And I think the reason I have grown quite a lot in the last several years was really because I started to practice learning in real life, like going to conferences and learn from practitioners who may not have a terminal degree, but they have been practicing what they have been learning in real life in their specific industry. And I wish I saw the importance of that earlier on my learning journey, and even when I just got started to earn my MA and PhD. But my focus back then was only on academia, traditional learning, like degree-focused academic learning. And so I wish I saw an alternative earlier.
That's actually very key. And I think that many people often get mixed up between the two. They're thinking it's either this or it's that, when actually you're able to combine the two, because so many people talk about having the work-life balance, but it's actually about having that work-life blend when they two become one.
That's totally where I am now. When I was working full-time for a job, like I cannot have a work-life balance or separation. When I go to work, I work. When I come back home, I don't really think about my work. But now, being an entrepreneur, and what I do is I work on a few things. Like most entrepreneurs, have multiple streams of income. But like building my school is my calling in life. It is who I am. Like, how can you have a balance between who I am and like who I am? Like who I am is my calling, and who I am is where I am. like has become beautifully blended. And I love that. It's for me, it's work-life integration. It's like being a mom. Can you like stop at 5 p.m.? You stop being a mom? No, you can't, right? Nobody can do that. Or just at 5 p.m. you stop being a human being. Like, no, it's part of who I am. It's in my DNA. I really enjoy this state. Everything is nicely blended.
That is so very true, and I hope that you listeners have gained so many golden nuggets from Dr. Ai so far. So now I'd like to ask you, how do you prefer to influence others to change their lives for the better?
The best way to influence another person is to become the change that you wish to see in the other person. And that's how I got started in the classroom. I became a practitioner. I became the change that I wished to see in my students. And so as a parent, our children don't really hear what we say, but they hear what we do. So action, role modeling is the best way to influence others. So yeah, be the change that you wish to see.
That is absolutely great words of advice. Thank you so much for sharing. And now I'd like to ask you, what do you think that people should do to stay motivated during moments of crisis?
I think this is definitely a great question. I think the key that many people fail to notice is that life is an inside-out journey. And if it comes from the heart, nothing can stop you, regardless of our career, our education. But so many people pursue life as an outside-in approach, right? My parents told me I have to do this, I have to eat healthy. My school teacher told me I have to do this. And my advisor told me I have to major in this. I'm really good at this. So rarely do we actually go inside to look within, to think about what do I want in life. And I believe the deeper we go inside, the more we're going to transform the outside. So start with the inside to discover your calling, to understand who you are. Why are you here? Each of us here on this planet Earth is for a purpose, is for a reason. Once you understand your calling, the thing that is so aligned with your heart, when you're working on that, you just feel like, you forget about time and the space, everything flows. So that is your calling. So once you discover that, and then you start to search outside, what are some of the career options that I can do to not only pursue my passion, but actually to support myself, impact and income. We need both of them. So, but it has to start with the heart first. Now it's like searching outside. Hey, writing a book is going to give me 5 figures or 6 figures. Let me do that. Or e-commerce is the way to go. Let me do that. That is not a sustainable way to have a long-term success. So start with the within first, and then discover what are the options outside that is aligned with the inside. And if there's none, create one, right? It's like me creating a school that is aligned with who I am. So if you can do that, have that level of alignment, I think I'm pretty sure you'll feel inspired and motivated and obsessed with this calling because it comes from the heart.
Definitely. That is so very true. And I'm totally in awe in all in all of your answers. They're absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Now I'd like to ask you, what is your passion and end goals?
So my passion right now is definitely to grow a classroom without walls as an alternative school, and so our slogan is the best education happens outside the classroom. We help parents prepare their children to become future ready by teaching them what schools are not teaching them. So it's really my dream, my passion. And I'm kind of right now where I am is a startup company phase, and I want to grow this, I want to scale this. So that's really my passion, to create a better learning environment for the next generation. And I believe this is definitely doable because I saw transformation in front of my eyes from the students who are a part of my school, who are a part of Classroom Without Walls, I also see transformation in front of my eyes on my own children. How it's not so much about what we're teaching the next generation. It's really about the how.
Yeah.
How we are teaching. That's why the traditional education is not working, because the how is not working. But the knowledge you still have to learn, but the way they teach you is not working. So what Classroom Without Walls does is that we have a different way to teach our students. And so seeing the transformation, in my own children, once you know how to teach them, they can figure out the what needs to be done, what I need to learn, self-motivated, self-directed learning. That's the way to go. And so seeing the transformation in my own children and on the students at Classroom Without Walls, and I believe I feel like I have finally cracked the code on parenting and education and children's future readiness. So now it's my responsibility to serve more people and to spread the message, to inspire as many parents. And oftentimes I discovered, I don't know if you have any parents listening to this, but parents are the barriers to their children's success. And so we just need to, what I do a lot is to really educate the parents. So I want to inspire and educate as many parents and therefore their children as possible. So that's my calling.
That is amazing. And do you mind maybe sharing one or two things that your classroom teaches that schools do not teach, and maybe even how it can have a positive impact on kids?
So so the first one is I want to share, when you ask an educator or when you ask a parent, hey, if you want to get your children to become future ready, what do you think you need to do? And the typical answer is always, how many A's, GPA. Is mainly about academic performance. But at Classroom Without Walls, we're really trying to disrupt that by teaching and telling the parents, school-based learning is only the tip of the iceberg to get their children ready. I actually have my own table I can show you, but it's really literally an iceberg. So the tip of the iceberg is knowledge, but we made a separation between traditional school-based learning and also at Classroom Without Walls, we make an effort to talk about social media, digital media literacy, like doing what you are doing right now, Trisha, and starting a podcast, talking to the camera, practicing interview skills, figuring out how to use technology, building a personal brand. We are in today's show me economy. Yeah. Show me what you have done, right? Not just telling me on a piece of resume, oh my gosh, who still use resume? But actually show me on LinkedIn, through your podcast, your website, your blog article, whatever you do, show me what you have done. So like digital literacy is so important, but so few children are learning that from their traditional school curriculum. So the iceberg model, the tip of the iceberg is knowledge, school-based learning knowledge, and also new media knowledge. And the middle section of the iceberg model that we use at Classroom Without Walls is life skill. Life skills are so important. Communication, collaboration, emotional intelligence, persuasion, creativity, critical thinking, all those are very important. So we talk about that. And the bottom of my iceberg model is mindset, how to think, self-awareness, going back to the within, and the self-regulation. How good do you know yourself, and how well can you recognize and regulate your own emotions, right? Because we have to master the self in order to master life. And we also talk about entrepreneurial mindset, how to think like an entrepreneur, even if you are not going to become one, right? How to figure things out, resilience, embrace failures and mistakes. So that's kind of our model: knowledge, life skill, and the mindset. And we believe you have to incorporate all of them to help your children become future ready. And to incorporate that, it's not just, hey, I teach you a class on entrepreneurship and then you become future ready. That's not how we teach, going back to, we have our unique framework and models to teach. Going back to, how to teach makes a huge difference. So that's kind of what we do. We have the iceberg is our foundation, and we have our own unique ways, much better than the traditional lecturing, sit on the stage model. We have our own way to teach and nurture the next generation by using our model to become future ready.
That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's actually really important because you touched on so many important points when it comes to just life as a whole. For example, emotional intelligence, mindset, because those two key things can either make or break a person, because if you don't have the right mindset, you will not be able to achieve the things that you want to achieve in life. And also emotional intelligence, knowing when to walk away, accepting things when you can't change them, and just being able to know when enough's enough, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now I'd like to ask you, let's say that you had a megaphone and you could say one thing to the world that would have a lasting influence. What would it be and why?
So the question that like people come to me and ask me a lot is like, for example, live streaming, right? Or starting a business. And like, oh, I'm so scared. I'm not good at this. I'm not good at that. What if this? What if that? So many excuses and lots of fears. And so I always share with those people. We all have fears, but the best way to overcome our fear is to act on the fear. And that's how I overcome my shyness, talking to the camera, doing a live streaming show. I have two now. So the only way for me to overcome my fear of being in front of the camera is actually by being in front of the camera. So the only way for us to overcome our fear is to take action on that fear. And so I want to share that with people, and don't wait until you feel like the perfect moment is here. There's no perfect moment. And the only way for us to get to perfection is by taking action.
That is very, very true. That is great words of wisdom. Those are great words of wisdom. Thank you so much for sharing. And I hope that you listeners are gaining a lot of information from Dr. Ai, and there's so much more to come. So now I'd like to ask you, what is the biggest issue or problem that you're aiming to solve as an influencer in your own industry?
So for me, really, education, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit already, like really educating the parents, because I do a few things, and besides running my school, I also work with other schools and to teach their teachers and school leaders how to teach the next generation. I also work with different brands in education. And so my mission in life is really to educate others how to educate others, right? So I educate parents how to educate their children. I educate other teachers and school leaders how to educate their students. I also work with brands in terms of education, disrupting the traditional education space. And so that's kind of the problem I'm solving, right? To make learning more fun, more relevant, and more transformative. To make students, fall in love with learning, which is totally possible. I see it, as I mentioned earlier, I see it in my own children, in students at Classroom Without Walls. So last year, I did a intensive immersion program. And so quite a few students told me they learned more in 10 days than 2 years at their own like high school or college.
That's great.
And that shows me, children love learn. They have so much potential. It is really the way that we're teaching, the pedagogy or the how, that is not working. And so I want to spread that message. I want to solve that problem. People think that learning is so boring. I don't want to go to school. I want to change that. Learning is fun, it's relevant, it's transformative.
That is absolutely great, and it's so very true. And also, I'd like is there any maybe words of advice that you give to those parents who maybe are getting in the way of their kids from learning through different areas in life, but they don't know how they're getting in the way?
So I think for parents, most parents, and we become a parent, but we didn't really go to a parenting school, right? And how do I learn to be a parent? Through my own parents. I learned how to do parenting from my parents. And we all know, how bad that approach is. So my first piece of advice for parents is, number one, do not outsource your children's education to a school, especially a traditional school. You have to supplement that. And the second piece of advice for parents is, it's time for you to do some unlearning and relearning. So unlearn the old way of parenting and relearn the new way of parenting. And like at my school, and I serve children 12 years old above, and I teach them, the iceberg model I shared with you. But also, I have a separate section of content and training and book recommendation for the parents. I think that is my message, my way to show the parents, you need to learn, unlearn and relearn. There's a new way of teaching. Things are different. Your children are different. Job security is gone. There are so many things. The parents have no clue what is going on. So they need to invest in time and energy if they really care about their children, their future, to be happy, to have life fulfillment, and they need to invest in learning how to do parenting in the 21st century. Stop watching Netflix. Use some of that time, right, to reinvest in upskilling what they know about parenting.
That is very, very key and concise advice. Thank you so much. And I hope that you listeners are finally awakening up to the truth and the reality of the world that we live in nowadays. Because as we all know, technology is all around us wherever we look, and it's here to stay. So you might as well learn how it works so that you can then use that to your advantage. So now,
just to follow up on that point, like talking about technology, and what I observed are two extremes. So you have this group of parents and educators. They think that social media, technology, oh my God, they're the root of the evil, right? They're so bad. Look at all the, like when you read news, bad media coverage. So let's just ban no social media, no technology in this house or at my school, right? So that is one level of extreme. And then you see the other extreme. They use social media like iPad, iPod, or like all sorts of digital devices as a babysitter, right? Hey, they put their kid in front of this, watch, learn, and they are like hands off. So I think both of them are wrong. And what we need is like a more middle ground. And I truly believe we need more educators who understand how to use social media and how to use creative technologies as a tool to meet a greater end, which is to serve the students. Technology by itself is not going to transform your kid. The human being behind the technology is going to make that transformation happen. But now we have a shortage of such human beings who understand how to use social media, how to use creative technologies as a teaching, as a learning, as a networking tool to meet a greater end. So that is, I was talking about the knowledge component. That is something that we highly emphasize at my school. And we have, not just me, we have a team of trainers, world-class professionals, and they know how to use social media, people like me, and we needed to have those people to be in charge of teaching and learning.
That is very, very true. And it's actually really important because not many people understand how to use social media to their advantage and how to use it correctly. When people often hear the word social media, they have that negative connotation already attached to it. They're thinking, oh, it's either for silliness or you have to be extremely famous to go on there. But it's actually a way just to simply broadcast what you do and also show that you are an authority in your area of expertise. Because, for example, let's say, I think it's no longer up, but there was something called Clout, and you were able to check your Clout score. And I used to use that when it was working. and it was a great way just to stay on top of what you are doing, and that way you're able to position yourself as a key person of influence in your different arenas. And that when people were to, like, maybe let's say you were going to go for a job interview, instead of checking like your resume and things like that, they'd often check people's for their clout score and things like that. So it's about staying on top of social media and being able to use it to your advantage.
I mean, 100%, totally. You are speaking my language, 100%, totally. I mean, social media is no different than traditional, newspaper. Everyone reads a newspaper or reading a book. To me, there's no difference. I mean, like, I'm not attached to social media at all. Like, it is the same as reading a book. I need to be on social media. I need to start cooking. I need to go exercise. They are all the same. I don't feel like, oh, my identity is like that. But it needs training. It needs training. If you don't know how to train students to have a healthy relationship with social media and technology, can be very detrimental to our mental health and physical health. And but we don't have enough trainers who really understand the true power of social media, especially in the traditional school environment. Yeah.
So now I'd like you to share with the listeners what that pivotal point was along your journey for you, and what did it teach you?
And I quite a few, like, I think all of them are really the major failures in my life. And I think, people need to understand, when we have failures or crisis in our life, it is the way from, it's the universe, their way to tell us, hey, wake up, they're poking our soul, poking our heart. Hey, time to wake up, to really rethink about your life. But oftentimes, when crises happen, when major epic failures and mistakes happen in our life, we just feel so defeated, and we will purchase a car or use medication and to oppress that feeling. So, like, in my life, and so many examples, and one quick simple example is, so right after I decided to kind of transition out of academia to do what I do now, as a speaker, CEO, and consultant, and to actually start talking about the problems in education, that is very, very hard for me, because I was part of the problem, right, to begin with. And all of my friends are college professors, and teachers. Like, how dare I am to say that this model is not working, right? I'm actually pointing fingers at those people. This way of teaching, like, I have lots of deans, like school president, in my network. I'm saying this is not working. And I got bullied, and I got trashed. It was really bad. They really destroyed me, online bullying, social media. And but it took me some time and to realize how to leverage that to grow myself as a person. That's how I discovered meditation, to really start working on the within, to build a solid foundation. In this day, like, when people say, hey, you are speaking nonsense, I don't care. Like, I think school is doing great. I don't really care. I don't feel like being personally attacked by that, but it took lots of work. So instances like that, being bullied, actually is a way for my heart to build my heart muscle, to build resilience. Hey, this is so bad, but how can I move on beyond this point?
Yeah.
Meditation or reading books and working with coaches, mentors, to grow myself and eventually to where I'm today. If I wasn't being bullied or being blocked, and I probably wouldn't dream so big. What if I build a better school? So in retrospect, I want to thank those people. I feel appreciative of opportunities and crises, failures, and mistakes like that. They are here for purpose to practice my heart muscle, to grow bigger and grow stronger. So
that is absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. And it's actually really, really inspiring how you were able to turn those adversities into an empowerment and simply create that as a fuel to really catapult you forward to success, and really to start something new as a way to teach people the things that schools do not, despite coming from that school arena. Mm. Um, so now I'd like you to maybe share some advice with those who may have had their very own £1 million idea at a time like this.
Yeah, start with one, right? We all have so many ideas. So one thing I teach my own children is ideas are cheap, because everyone, like I don't think I'm the only one who has an idea of building a new school. I'm sure like if I go outside asking people on the block, probably like 10 people at least
Yeah.
will have a similar really big idea. But so few people are actually action takers. So don't just be an idea person, be an action taker. So start with one and start taking action.
That is very, very key. It's about maintaining that focus and pushing all your attention to one thing so that it can simply be the best and you can then maximize those results.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'd like to ask you, what are the top 3 lessons that you have learned during your life journey, and how did they influence the way that you look at life?
And so number one is really become a lifelong learner. And I want to share with everyone, today's information is going to be tomorrow's misinformation, especially if you are in social media, in marketing, in education, and in data science, in technology. Pretty much every field I feel like is being constantly updated and disrupted. So you need to first become a lifelong learner and always learn, unlearn, relearn, always do that. And the second one is to really work on yourself. And I think this is something that we miss so much, like growing up. We pursue everything as an outside in. And I have learned from my own journey, from my own transformation, how important it is to work on my heart, to work on myself. And the more that I transform who I am internally, the more that is going to be manifested externally. And when you look at our life, it's a mirror of what is inside. So if you believe that you are good, if you believe in abundance, if you believe in yourself, you will see that in the external mirror, right? But so few of us, we actually learn how to cultivate that self-love. And so when we look at our external environment, it's a reflection of, I don't love myself. I mean, how many people can actually look at the mirror and, hey, I love you, to say it in a very authentic, coming out of the heart. I don't think many people can do that. And to really start working on the self, for me, it is meditation. For other people, it might be journaling or exercising or different things, and really like reading books, understanding how the heart works, how the brain, neuroscience, and more holistic manner, how we can rewire our brain to reprogram some of the old program that we have grown up with. So that's point number 2. And so the first one is become a lifelong learner. The second one is to really work on the within. The third one is be an action taker, kind of following up on that point I mentioned. And so many people have ideas, and we all have like excuses for not doing something. And ask yourself, some bigger question, audacious question. What if this is going to happen? Start taking action. And like for me, it's like baking, right? Like you want to bake this cake, but you start with the basic ingredients. What are the basic? Start with the baby steps. Don't think, oh, I'm going to build a school. That sounds like, oh my God, so big, and I don't even know if I can do it, right? But start with some smaller steps. I started with really just building my social media online presence. I never thought about building a school. But as I grow, like my ideas also change, right? And so start taking some actions, and don't be fixated on that really big idea and always try to figure it out, but actually start taking some smaller steps. Taking action will give you clarity on your big idea. So be an action taker.
That's actually very interesting how you spoke about doing the internal work, because many people, they run around to the events spending like loads of money saying, oh my gosh, this event can change my life and things like that. But if you haven't done the internal work, then you're not able to then receive the external things, because if you haven't cleared up maybe some emotional baggage and other things like that, then you're not able to then accept new things that are going to come into your life and that could potentially even help you to better the way you live and achieve more success.
Totally. I mean, like if you think about it, in life, it's always about selling yourself, right? Selling your ideas. So right now I'm selling my business, I'm selling my program, I'm selling my knowledge. So it is very important. If you don't believe in what you are selling, how can you sell that? And then like people can feel your energy. If I come to you, oh, I'm not really sure about this new model, I don't think it actually works, and nobody's going to buy from me, nobody's going to hire me, right, as an employee or as a consultant. So it starts with that within, like, you know, even the early journeys when I actually started selling, charging people, I couldn't, you know, I have lots of emotional internal baggage. I have to do the inner work. Without the inner work, it's very hard to see the external transformation. I mean, I haven't met any coaches or mentors who internally is a mess, their external life is amazing. I haven't met anyone yet, and it all starts with the within. Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I absolutely agree with that. And thank you so much for sharing. And I hope that once again that you listeners have gained so much from Dr. Ai. And if you guys have missed anything that we have said, feel free to rewind it and please do take notes. And yeah, so now I'd like to ask you, if you had to be another person for one day, who would it be and why?
I love myself so much. I think I would just like be myself. Maybe like a different stage of where I am. Maybe a future I think that would be great. You know, to time travel to my future. You know, 10 years to see. Wow, classroom without walls. In my mind, I have a 5-year plan. Like I actually want to have some physical headquarters in different countries to make this really global. I would
Yeah.
love to see that. That would totally make my day.
That sounds absolutely amazing. Yeah, that sounds amazing. So now I'd like you to share with the listeners what your views are on the word legacy and what legacy you'd like to leave.
And really build a better learning environment for the next generation to make learning more fun, more relevant, and transformative.
That's actually really key because funny enough, when I often ask other people this question, they often say things like, I'd like to have something to pass down and things like that. But for you, it's about having that impact on others and having a long-lasting impact, which is really,
Totally, I you know, yeah, like building trees, right? Like all the trees, and then yeah.
yes, that's absolutely amazing. So is there anything that maybe you've done in the past and now looking back on it, you may have wished you'd done it differently or maybe even sooner? And what did it teach you?
I wish one thing is like really traveling, and I started to travel in my early 20s. I grew up in China. So my very first international traveling was actually coming to the United States when I was, I think, 22, to come here to study by myself, and it changed my life and taught me so much. You know, I came to the United States to earn like degrees, right, master and PhD. But to my great surprise, this journey to earn like my education is actually a journey to get to know myself, to understand who I am. Why is that? Because when you are outside of your comfort zone, that's how you truly start to discover who you are, your calling in life. And even to start understand, like I didn't really understand China until I came to the United States, because the US is so different. It is actually giving me a framework to look at China, you know, using a third eye. But when I was in China, I was like fish in the water. I couldn't describe water. If you are the fish, ask you, hey, tell me what water is. Most of us will have a hard time. Like, I don't even know. It's just like, no part of me. It's like the air that we're breathing. And but traveling, like, so after I came to the US, I fell in love with the, oh wow, you know, outside of my comfort zone, I'm discovering, I'm learning so much about who I am, my potential, and I fall in love with traveling. And then like later, after I got married and with my family, with my husband, we have been to so many countries, and I see how that is really helping me on a regular basis to continue to grow, to reflect, and to be creative and to be innovative. Actually, lots of startup founders, they gained their ideas by being overseas. Like the scooter idea, I can give you a long list. It really gives you a different way. It's an eye-opener. Wow, you guys do this way?
Yeah.
That's how you actually use chopstick. That is so interesting, right? I see that how that is influencing my own children traveling. I mean, they have been traveling with us since they were infant. And so in my family, we don't really buy lots of stuff. We prioritize experience. So we purchase experience for our children instead of purchasing like toys and stuff.
Yeah.
So I wish I started doing that earlier, like to really invest in more time and money. Traveling, like going outside to exotic places to, wake up my heart to discover new ways of living, of doing things, and to gain a new perspective on life.
That's absolutely amazing how you were able to then take that time being by yourself as a way to simply motivate you and open you up to different things, and just having that awareness of how you are able to then integrate what you have learned into different areas of your life. And that's really, really
and that's why I classroom without walls. Right now, the coronavirus, we don't do it. But we have a blended model. We have online learning, and we also have a physical immersion. And the physical immersion is actually in different countries. Last year was in Singapore, and this year I was thinking about doing Singapore again. And next year I want to add Japan. And then to really push our children to be outside of their familiar environment, to be outside of their routine, to be detached from their familiar identity for a few days. And that's when they can start to see transformation.
That is absolutely amazing. And it's very, very important. And you're actually really lucky to have been open enough to have been able to accept them learning, because some people, they're really closed-minded and they're like fixated on this is how it is, this is what I learned, and this is how it's going to be. But it's actually really amazing how, despite all, like you were saying, despite all the accolades and things that you have achieved in your life, you were still able to be open to learning different things in life that you could then incorporate into your school.
Exactly. The best education happens outside the classroom.
Yeah, definitely. So now I'd like you to share with the listeners any advice that you would give to them if let's say that they're looking to start up a brand new business of their own and they're starting to give up. What advice would you give to them?
I think the best way is to start creating content. And if you want to grow a business, so many people, they use like LinkedIn, social media to passively consume and be a lurker. There's nothing wrong about that. But if you want to grow a business, you have to pivot. You have to reposition yourself as an expert. And what do authorities and experts do? They produce content, they educate others. That's how I started to see how my brand is changing and transforming after I started producing tons of content, blogging, like tweeting, LinkedIn, and live streaming shows. I go live at least twice a week to teach. So it is really important. And once you start creating content, and people will come to you to seek advice and to see you as an expert. Once you gain a taste of that, and you will slowly gain a community, and your community will push you to keep going. Like for me, my live streaming show, and sometimes like I just feel like I'm so tired, I don't want to do it, I have to dress up, to put on makeup, this and that. But I know there are people waiting for me to watch this episode. I have to show up. Like I cannot let other people down, right? So like I think it starts with stop being a lurker or being a passive consumer. Start being an active content creator. Whatever your industry is, start producing content that is aligned with your business goals, and start producing content. Create a content calendar, show up on a daily basis, have a podcast, have a live streaming show, have a book, start to teach educate and do that on a regular basis, and then you will be in the flow to grow, to become authority, become a leader, to run a business.
It's so very true, and I hope that you listeners are going to be taking them actionable steps based on the advice that Dr. Ai has given to you today. And lastly, I'd like you to share with the listeners where they can find you if they'd like to find out about any upcoming things you may have.
Yeah, so right now I'm my school Classroom Without Walls, our signature program, Life Accelerator, is open for enrollment 12 years old above. I actually just finished a very comprehensive workbook, has lots of studies and many things that we mentioned, and also my own model and what are the things that parents need to know if they want to future-proof their children. And so they can join that program, or if they want a copy of my ebook completely free, I will just give it to people. And I also host 2 different live streaming shows. One is on Wednesday, another one is on Friday. The Wednesday one talks about social media, marketing, business, entrepreneurship. And the Friday one is to disrupt, debate, and discuss education. So the goal for the Friday show is to really future-proof the next generation. And people can connect with me on LinkedIn, Aiaddyson-Zhang. I'm also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, but I'm mostly active on LinkedIn.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I hope that you listeners do go and connect with Dr. Ai, and do be sure to watch her live videos. They're absolutely amazing. I've watched so many myself, and it just really is amazing because not only does Dr. Ai do them by herself sometimes, but she also has some other experts. So it's just amazing to learn from Dr. Ai and also different people, so that you're able to then open your awareness into different ways of how you can incorporate what they have to say into your everyday life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the Influencer Show today. And also thank you so much to you listeners. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And if you guys would like to have the chance to be featured on the Influencer Show, feel free to email the email that's going to be popping up on the screen. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.